Oh, we're live.
We're live.
Hello, Lee and Joey Dwyer, Vandy Sports. I guess he knows me. Anyway, Vanderbilt has beaten Tennessee 13-4. Really not a night we expected. I talked to Mitch Light after the game. I said, "Hey, if you said one team gets 13 runs and 15 hits, and it's kind of over at the end, I think I know which team it is. It wasn't that team tonight." And we can get into ramifications of this game. I think in the long run, look, it clinched an NCAA bid for them, I think. I mean, I don't know how at this point you don't let Vanderbilt in the tournament with a 20 RPI, a strength of schedule in the teens, 2 wins over the number 1 ranked team in America, even though they're lower than the RPI. And so let's start there. I think that was the most meaningful part of the night. They kind of took care of business, and I don't know what the chances are of them not getting into the tournament now, but they're probably about the chance of a meteor striking us right now at this point. That's a little much, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, they're in, Chris. With what they've done this week, I thought they might have been in on Saturday after they beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
Then they go and win last night against another bubble team. Then they go beat what some consider the number 1. A lot of people consider the number 1 team in the country. I don't see a way they're not in. They've really proved a lot this week, and maybe bigger than all, because I think they were probably already in. See what was doing with its pitching. Vanderbilt beat Tennessee, and that's not something we've been able to say a whole lot with the athletic department and with Vanderbilt baseball as well. I mean, they lost 9 straight to Tennessee before the second to last time. Now they beat Tennessee twice in a row. Feels like they have some confidence against that program, and Tim Corbin talked about a little bit the last time they played Tennessee and beat them, that there's maybe a level of program confidence when you play a team like that that you don't have when you lose 9 in a row. You could tell a lot of other guys took it personally. J.D. Thompson talked about that. Devin Futrell talked about that. Jonathan Vastine today talked about how they know the history against Tennessee. And I think it was a huge win. Just beating that team in the way that they did, I think, is always big, no matter the circumstance, no matter what it does to the resume, no matter what it does to your record. Beating that team in that way is significant for this program, Chris.
Yeah, I guess to rephrase the word salad I started with, I feel like you never know what a committee's going to do. It may seem plain to us that they deserve to be in the tournament, but I think you reach a point where you have removed pretty much any reasonable doubt they did that tonight. So that is a starter. It's funny because I got asked, I was on Knoxville Radio, I was on Tony Basilio's show, which I do a lot, really like being on that show. And I was asked about it, and, what was at stake. And I said, well, obviously Vanderbilt's got something to play for. I don't know about Tennessee in terms of national seeds. And I mean, they're going to be hosting 2 weekends, presuming they win the first weekend, which I would bet that they would. But I said, it's also kind of taken on a new level. It's a big rivalry now. I mean, it's a really big rivalry now. And, let's be honest. When we looked over in Tennessee's dugout tonight, it was as tame as we've ever seen it. There's always chirping and things going on, and they're cutting up and everything. It was just I don't know, that I almost didn't recognize that team tonight. And but on the same side, if Tennessee had gone out and just slaughtered Vanderbilt tonight, the fan base would be hearing about it too. So look, maybe Vanderbilt took the wind out of their sails early with that 5-run second inning. Maybe if that goes a little differently, it's a little bit more of a ball game. But regardless of the circumstances, I thought this too. They needed to put a little something together against Tennessee. They needed to, they won the last one. Big deal. Tennessee had won the 9 before that or whatever it was. Now you can say, all right, we put together a couple in a row. We did it in a couple different places. And you can sort of start to pull that monkey off your back a little bit.
Yeah, and they certainly had it, Chris, right? 9 in a row. You could tell, even when they got close to Saturday, they played Tennessee this year, felt like they weren't going to find a way to win that game. Just finding a way to beat that team, I think, is huge for them. And now you look at the season, and obviously this game maybe not the same stakes as the weekend they played against them, but you're tied with them on the season. You beat them twice, they beat you twice, and this is a year where they were a lot better than Vanderbilt was. Yeah. So I think it was interesting just to see kind of how it all shook out, because if you told me that Saturday that they were going to end the season, and maybe not end this, maybe they play on Friday. Brian Shumpert brought up that possibility as well. But if they end the season tied with Tennessee, or maybe beat them on Friday, I mean, I couldn't have fathomed that this Saturday at Hawkins Field when they had lost them. It felt like they were heading towards a sweep. It felt like heading into the weekend they were heading towards a sweep. Now, a little bit of a different feel, maybe not an entirely different feel, a little bit, and it feels like they're playing their best baseball right now. And Jonathan Vastine said it. I think Tim Corbin said it a little bit as well. They seem to have some positive trajectory as they head into their most important games this year.
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I asked Tim Corbin about this, and he called it, I said, the last 4 games offensively. They've won 3 in a row, but 4 games ago was a loss to Kentucky. But they scored, I think, 7 runs in 7 innings and left ducks on the pond a lot of the time. I felt like this has been a different team the last 4 games, and he picked up on that. And I think that's the thing. I think we looked at this and said, look, this is not a rocker, lighter type pitching staff where they can just go in and get a couple of runs and beat people. I remember the last time they went to Omaha, they scored, I think, about 4 runs in the Super Regional against East Carolina or whatever it was. But because they had those 2 guys, it was good enough. They don't have that kind of pitching staff this year. They're going to need some runs, and they got them tonight. And this is now 4 games in a row. The offense has been pretty good. They've done it in different ways. Espinal had 2 home runs tonight. Vastine hit 1. Barzy hit 1. They stole some bases. They had just a bunch of hits. Every way that you could string runs together the last couple of nights, they've done it. And I feel like that is the other thing too. And I said this to you before the game. It was kind of predictable in a year where the lineup hasn't been predictable. That I thought, okay, he's going to bottle what they did last night and come out with kind of the same batting order in line. That's what he did tonight. Now you can look at it and you can say there's some consistency. They've started to hit the ball, and there's also some stuff with fielding. I'll get into it a little bit. I've talked a while, so I'm gonna yield it to you for a minute.
Yeah, something I've talked about the last couple of weeks is they need their guys to step up. The guys that are relying on Jonathan Vastine, Alan Espinal, RJ Austin. Chris, those 3 guys, really good tonight. Alan Espinal had 2 homers. Could have probably won the game by himself if no other guy hit a homer or anything like that. Vastine finally broke out of his slump that he's had in Hoover with the homer that he crushed. And then RJ Austin, 3 for 4 today? I think he's had a really nice end of the season quietly. And Vanderbilt has needed those guys to step up, and they did that tonight. And I know the pitching staff that they faced tonight was not reminiscent of the one Tennessee normally throws out, but I think it was big to have those guys step into roles that we felt like they probably should have had all season. Huge game for those 3. And I think it was also big. Colin Barzy finally gets some fruit for his labor. And it's an old Jerry Stackhouse term I picked up, but I think it's true. He was hitting the ball hard for a lot of the season. Yeah. The numbers did not reflect that, though. His first career homer tonight. And I think he needed to see something pay off for him, and it did there. Braden Holcomb, another guy, seeing the fruits of his labor a little bit now. He killed some fastballs to left field and felt like he was really on tonight, and has maybe started to become more of maybe he's not a complete hitter, but he's started to become a little bit more of a complete hitter rather than less of a boomer bust guy. Yeah. And I think it was just a big night for them as an offense as a whole. You look on the individual scale, it's good for a lot of guys. And Calvin Hewitt, a guy we haven't brought up yet. Chris.
Oh, man.
Can you get him out?
You cannot get Calvin Hewitt out.
Apparently it's their freshman reliever who never pitches who can get him out. But before that, Calvin Hewitt still on an absolute tear. He's scorching. Maybe he's one of your guys now that you can rely upon in the last couple of weeks. He's a vet. He's an old guy. And he's certainly playing like it right now.
You talk about Tennessee's pitching, and no, it wasn't the cream of the crop. They threw a guy I didn't know was on their roster tonight. And the other guys they've thrown, Loy and some of those kids are guys that you usually see in midweek games and not so much on the weekends. Occasionally you did, but it's still a talented staff. But the big thing is Nate Snead is their best pitcher. I mean, and they got 5 runs off Nate Snead in an inning, and that was it. They chased him for the ball game. One was a home run.
And he was frustrated too.
Yeah, and look, Nate Snead's a guy that's touched 100 this year. I picked some all-SEC teams. I had him as one of my relief pitchers. And he wasn't just a guy that could close a game and give you an inning. He's a guy that's gone 5-6 innings. He's the kid that shut them down on Saturday in the game here. I mean, he's an electric arm, and you could say, well, maybe Tennessee threw in the towel late with the pitching, but they started their best guy, in my opinion. And I think that counts for a lot.
Yeah. I mean, this was his first start of the year, but also this guy's pitched a lot. And I think in a sense it is that they threw in the towel, right?
Yeah.
Like, it kind of feels like the Calipari thing to where it's like, well, this tournament doesn't matter when we don't want it to matter.
Right.
And that's kind of the sense I got tonight. maybe they weren't going to throw their best guys, but they certainly weren't going to have that pitching plan if they were ahead. But I thought it was interesting that Vanderbilt was just able to jump on him, and then they just kept rolling. And for a lot of the season, they've jumped on a guy and then they've left guys on the pond or something along those lines. But today, just kept it rolling, kept putting it on. Yeah. Big win for them, and big day for the offense as a whole. I think the pitching was good as well. Futrell, it's all right, but Miller Green really stepped into a nice role today, and I think he's been really good moving forward.
Well, and the thing, too, I think when and people have discounted this for the last – like when they lose games and they just get smashed, people are like, oh, they can't even compete. And now this is 3 games in a row where they put some distance between them and the teams they're playing. I know last night was 6-3, but 2 of those came with 2 outs in the ninth. I mean, they still count the same, but the point is they played with a little bit of a lead here for a few games, and I think that's something that matters. It's not like they're just winning one-run games. They're showing the ability to kind of put the hammer down. But I wanted to hit the lineup for just a minute. Man, I think the move of R.J. Austin II has been terrific. He's made a bunch of good plays out here tonight. He made one tonight where he's playing second. He ranges behind the bag at short on a ball hit up the middle and really maybe a couple inches towards the left field side, and steadies and bounces a one-hopper to Holcomb at first and gets an out to get them, I think, out of an inning or maybe the first out of an inning. But, I mean, against them, they're all big outs, the way that team hits. They played really good defense down there. I don't know if they made an error yet.
Vastine.
That's right. Vastine made one on a rocket hit to him. But, I mean, they've made some plus plays on some balls. They catch in the outfield last night. I feel like they finally, for the first time all season, feel like they're starting to get a little bit of continuity. You got an option in Humphrey off the bench who's a defensive replacement. I think that's one thing that's disappointing with the season is you knew they weren't going to go out there and lead the league in home runs, which means they got to score runs with doubles and walks and things we said, but it also means they got to lock it down defensively. They hadn't really done that all year. I'm not sure that a 2 or 3 game sample size is enough to say they've locked it down, but it's starting to feel more that way. And backing up a little bit too, what is one thing we always say, and I've always told you, they play their best ball usually after games. The Georgia series a couple weekends ago, they were still just a couple days out of class, I guess. You're probably still fatigued in a bad matchup. But since they've had time to kind of catch their breath, and I guess Kentucky stunk for a good game and a half, but since then, maybe this is a little part of the reset, not just with them not having to worry about school, but also being able to get some continuity they haven't had in their lineup all year.
Right. First of all, with the defense, R.J. Austin, I think he led the team in errors last year, right? A second. Seems like he's vastly improved there, and it's not only because of lack of errors. He's making plays that aren't routine now, and it feels like he's really taken a step, just as a defender as a whole. I think Tim Corbin has talked about him as like an old-time baseball player. R.J. Austin's just a baseball player. Like, he does a lot of things really well. He's athletic. He finds the barrel. I think he has proven to be a real factor for them and a guy they can rely upon to maybe even take a little bit of a step next year. I don't think their defense has been superb in terms of making the routine ones hold.
There we go. Now we're back.
But there's been a few that they fumbled, but for the most part, they've made some really good ones. And they've also made some that have kind of offset those. You saw Leneve crash into the wall tonight. That's a guy we have not thought of super highly as a defender, especially in left.
Yeah.
But he made a really nice play tonight. Hewitt made the one last night. You mentioned the one with Austin. They seem to have taken a step defensively at this point, and I don't know how you can really change things up at this point. It seems like this is what they got to roll with for now. And it felt like that at the end of last year too, but they've got to roll with what they have, and what they have, Chris, it's been working recently.
Yeah, well, and this isn't an easy park to defend, and there's more room than you'll play all year, foul territory too.
But they're suited for it because they have fast guys in the outfield. They have infielders with range.
Well, I mean, that's what we thought before the season, but we didn't really. I mean, let's go back to South Carolina. I guess It's been a couple of months, but I mean, there was a time where any ball hit in the air anywhere, you had to hold your breath and check your pulse. That feels like that's a good bit in the rearview mirror now. But the point is, that's the team we thought they would be potentially. They haven't. Now it starts to feel like maybe that is what they have.
And I think a lot of that is confidence, right? You look at South Carolina, and there's a crowd that's rooting against them, and they didn't seem to really be able to handle that. Now they seem to be. I told Ryan Sylvia this in the pregame thing we did with them. They seem to be built for this type of moment a lot more, and I think they proved that right tonight. Calvin Hewitt's making crazy plays, and he wasn't even making the routine ones in South Carolina. It feels like they are more ready for what's thrown at them now than they were a few months ago, and I think that's a big step, especially for a veteran team that really we didn't know if had leaders for the first couple weeks of the season. Now it seems like some leadership has emerged, some alphas have emerged, and they're ready to go, and I don't know if there's a better time for them to be ready to go, and I don't know that they're going to be Texas A&M tomorrow if they play them or anything like that, but I'm leaving here tonight feeling pretty encouraged about what they have.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, and I'm sure they don't feel it, but in the bottom of my heart, I'm going, man, if you could, if you're them and all your remaining games get rained out, you can just bottle what you've done and move on and rest your arms. I think I'd take that. I don't know what they have to prove at this point. I mean, maybe you get a 2 seed instead of 3 for whatever that's worth. Maybe if you play better, you get sent to, to Terre Haute instead of Corvallis or somewhere like that, or Stillwater.
Right.
I don't know what it means, but we were having this discussion of like, who do you start tomorrow?
Right.
And I guess it's Grayson Carter, but I mean, there's no, maybe it's Sam Levoki, but I don't know that you want to put Levoki out there against if it's A&M. Maybe Mississippi State is a little more manageable because they're not a gorilla ball team, but I don't know. It feels like they've kind of done what they need to do, and it's a little harder. And then I put nothing by them. They survived this tournament last year, and I think, did they pitch Holton and Owen in this event?
I don't know that Holton was healthy in this event.
I don't think he was. So they did it down a couple guys last year too. You know what? Guess who's sitting out there? Ethan McElvey. Maybe if he's ready to go, then having another day or two is a blessing because you can see what you got there. And maybe that's the plan. I don't know. But there's part of me that says, hey, it'd kind of be nice to take your wins and go home and not have to play again.
Yeah, especially with the momentum that they have right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous that momentum kind of gets killed in the next few days with the pitching stuff and everything along those lines. But that's probably my biggest concern is because I think they're going to have Cunningham ready to go for a regional. They're going to have Futrell ready to go. Thompson will be ready to go. Those are the 3 guys you really want if Holton's not ready to go. So I'm interested to see kind of what happens with them moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good point. Like, you really want to bottle not only the way you're playing, but also the momentum you have, the confidence you have. And that might take a hit the next 2 days if this doesn't end favorably for them.
Any parting thoughts?
Well, I think tonight was one of the better nights for Vandy baseball in recent memory. And maybe Tennessee can say what they want about throwing in the towel and stuff like that. But I think beating Tennessee in any scenario is a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially when you're locking up an NCAA tournament bid like they did tonight and like they did last night. It's been a really good day, 2 days for them in Hoover, and they take a lot of pride in this event. I think that showed, and I think this being the perfect ballpark for them they couldn't have played in this ballpark at a better time.
Yeah.
Chris, I've loved what I've seen from them the last 2 days. Let's see if they can bottle it and bring it to a regional. I don't know if the next 2 days are super important, but obviously you'd like to win those, but I don't know. Big day for them yesterday, and they really needed those type of days.
Yeah. Well, you'll be here to cover it. I'm headed back tonight. And then if they make it to Saturday, I might come back. We'll see. But either way, you'll have us covered. You're doing a great job, and I'm glad you got to come to this event because you can see why I've really loved to be at it for years now. Hoover does a wonderful job of hosting it. And by the way, there's more media here than I've ever seen. Yeah. Hands down, the crowds are better.
And Chris Archer.
And you randomly run into former big leaguers.
Watched Jack Caglione hit BP, and Chris Archer was standing right next to me.
Yeah. You just never know what goes on down here. And we'll see what happens tomorrow night. They'll play the late game, which I would presume would probably start around
midnight. 2 in the morning.
Don't even speak that into existence. Maybe 9 o'clock. I don't know, or 8 o'clock. But in any case, whenever it is, Joey will be here to cover it, and we'll hope you'll tune in.
Yep, we'll talk tomorrow, guys.
All right, this is the Vandy Sports Podcast. We're presented by Anchor Impact. Baseball season, sponsored by the Murfreesboro Pure Milk Company. Also presented by the Wash House, Sutherland and Belk, and the Maynard Nexus Government Contracts Group. So thank you to all those who helped us. Thank you to those of you who watched. I'm Chris. host, Lee and Joey Dwyer. We'll see you again soon with more content of Vandy Sports.